The evening sky was painted in soft shades of orange and gray as the sun began to sink behind the clouds. A cool wind moved through the trees, carrying the smell of wet earth after a light rain. On a quiet road outside town, a small blue car stood still near the sidewalk. Its hood was slightly open, and steam rose faintly from inside. The driver, a young woman named Elena, sat in the front seat with her head against the steering wheel, sighing in frustration. Her day had already been long and tiring. She had left work late, missed her bus, and borrowed a friend's car just to get home. But halfway through the drive, the car made a strange sound, shook, and then refused to move again. Now she was stranded, unsure what to do. She had no one close by to call, and her small savings would not cover the cost of a towing service. Elena lifted her head and pushed the door open. She stepped out carefully, brushing her hair back from her face. Her brown eyes carried both worry and weariness. She opened the hood of the car, though she had little knowledge of engines. The wires, metal pipes, and belts looked confusing, and she quickly realized she could not solve the problem herself. Standing by the car with her arms crossed, she whispered to herself, "Why today of all days?" The road was quiet, with only a few passing vehicles. Each time a car drove by, Elena hoped someone might stop to help. But everyone seemed in a hurry, too busy to notice a young woman stuck by the roadside. Her heart sank a little more with each passing minute. Just then, a dark pickup truck slowed down and pulled over a few steps behind her. Elena turned quickly, both hopeful and cautious. A tall man in his early 30s stepped out. He wore a plain gray t-shirt and jeans, his hands slightly rough from work. His face was calm, with kind eyes that gave comfort even from a distance. "Car trouble?" he asked, walking closer. His voice was steady and warm. "Yes," Elena admitted, feeling both relieved and embarrassed. "It just stopped. I don't really know what's wrong." The man gave a small nod. "Mind if I take a look? I'm a mechanic. Name's Daniel." For a moment, Elena hesitated. She didn't usually trust strangers, especially on a quiet road, but something in Daniel's tone and the easy way he spoke made her feel safe. She stepped aside, giving him space near the car. "Thank you," she said softly. Daniel leaned over the engine, checking wires and pipes with quick, practiced hands. Elena watched, trying not to feel awkward. While he worked, her eyes drifted toward the pickup truck he had come in. Through the slightly open window, she noticed a small figure, a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, sitting quietly in the passenger seat. The girl had curly brown hair and wide, curious eyes. She leaned forward slightly, watching everything. With interest, Elena smiled and gave a small wave. The girl's face lit up, and she shyly waved back before pulling the seatbelt tighter across her chest. "She's cute," Elena said, nodding toward the truck. Daniel glanced back, his face softening. "That's Mia, my daughter. She comes with me almost everywhere." There was pride in his voice when he spoke of her, and Elena felt her heart warm at the simple way he said it. After a few minutes of checking, Daniel straightened up and wiped his hands with a cloth from his pocket. "It's nothing too serious," he explained. "The engine overheated, but I can fix it right here. Won't take long." Relief flooded through Elena. "Really? That's such a blessing. I was worried I'd be stuck here all night." Daniel gave a small smile. "Don't worry. I've seen worse. You'll be back on the road soon." He worked carefully, tightening a few bolts and adjusting parts. Elena watched quietly, admiring how focused he was. The way his hands moved showed years of practice, but there was also patience in his work, like someone who cared not only about machines, but about the people depending on them. As he worked, Elena found herself relaxing for the first time that evening. The road no longer felt lonely. The simple kindness of a stranger had turned her fear into comfort. After a short while, Daniel closed the hood and gave it a firm pat. "Try starting it now," he said. Elena climbed back into the driver's seat and turned the key. To her delight, the car started smoothly, the engine humming softly as if nothing had ever gone wrong. She let out a joyful laugh. "It works! Thank you so much." Daniel only shook his head lightly. "No need to thank me. It was a small fix." Elena stepped out again, reaching for her wallet. "At least let me pay you something. It's the least I can do." But Daniel raised his hand gently, stopping her. "No, keep it. Sometimes kindness is enough." The words touched her more deeply than she expected. In a world where everything seemed to come with a price, here was a man offering help freely. She looked at him with grateful eyes, unable to find the right words. Before she could speak, the little girl in the truck opened the door slightly, peeking out again. Her innocent face glowed with a quiet happiness, as if she had been waiting for this moment. Elena waved at her once more, and this time Mia whispered something Elena couldn't hear from the distance. Daniel noticed and gave a small, almost shy smile. For Elena, it felt like the evening had brought more than just a fixed car. It had brought a meeting she didn't expect, a gentle father, a sweet little girl, and a kindness that touched her heart in a way she could not explain. The road no longer felt heavy with worry. It felt like the beginning of something new. The soft hum of the car's engine was like music to Elena's ears. For a moment, she simply sat behind the wheel, her hands resting on the steering wheel, amazed that the vehicle was running smoothly again. Relief filled her chest, washing away the fear and helplessness she had felt only minutes earlier. She stepped out of the car, smiling gratefully at Daniel. "You have no idea how thankful I am," she said warmly. "I thought I would be stuck here until midnight." Daniel gave a small, modest shrug. It wasn't a big problem, just something simple. Elena reached into her handbag quickly, pulling out her wallet. "Simple or not, you helped me when I needed it. Please, let me give you something for your time." She held out a few bills. Her hand extended toward him, but Daniel stepped back, shaking his head. His voice was calm but firm. "No, please, keep it. I don't take money for small fixes like this. It didn't cost me anything, so it shouldn't cost you either." Elena blinked, surprised. In her experience, kindness usually came with a hidden price. Yet this man, who clearly worked hard for a living, was refusing payment with such honesty that it left her silent for a moment. "You fixed my evening," she said softly, lowering her wallet. I don't know what to say." Daniel gave a half smile. "You don't need to say anything. Just drive safe." Elena studied him quietly. There was something about Daniel that stood out, something gentle but strong. He didn't look like a man who had an easy life, but he carried himself with quiet dignity. His clothes were worn, his hands rough from work, but his eyes were kind. She found herself wanting to know more, even though they had only just met. A small sound broke the silence, the creak of a door opening. Elena turned to see the little girl again. Mia had stepped out of the truck this time, her tiny feet carefully touching the ground. She held a small stuffed rabbit in her hands and clutched it close to her chest. "Hi there," Elena said, crouching a little so her eyes were level with the girl's. "You must be Mia, right?" The little girl nodded shyly, her curls bouncing. She hid half her face behind the stuffed rabbit, but her wide brown eyes peeked curiously at Elena. "She's a bit shy," Daniel explained gently, walking closer to his daughter. "But once she's comfortable, she talks a lot." Elena smiled at Mia. "That's okay. I was shy too when I was little. But I think brave girls carry their rabbits with them, right?" Mia's lips curved into the smallest smile as she hugged the rabbit tighter. Elena's heart melted at the sight. She felt something she hadn't expected, a sudden warmth toward this child she had only just met. "You're very good with kids," Daniel said quietly, almost to himself. Elena looked up at him, her smile lingering. I like children. They're honest, and they see the world in a way adults sometimes forget. Daniel nodded, his eyes thoughtful. For a moment, silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, but strangely gentle. The cool evening breeze brushed against them, carrying the scent of wet earth and pine. Finally, Elena cleared her throat. At least let me thank you properly. Maybe a cup of coffee? Or dinner sometime? The words slipped out before she could think twice. She wasn't usually so forward, but something about Daniel made her want to extend the moment. Daniel looked surprised, almost caught off guard. He hesitated, glancing at Mia, who was now holding Elena's hand as if she had known her forever. A small smile appeared on his lips, though there was a trace of uncertainty in his eyes. I appreciate the offer, he said gently, but you don't need to do that, really. Elena tilted her head, studying him. He wasn't refusing out of rudeness. It was more like he was protecting himself from something. She wondered what stories lay behind his quiet eyes. Still, she respected his words and didn't press further. All right, she said softly. But maybe I'll see you around. Daniel gave a small nod. Maybe. Elena glanced at her car, now working perfectly, then back at the little girl who still hadn't let go of her hand. It amazed her how quickly children could attach themselves to someone they barely knew. She knelt again to face Mia. Thank you for letting me meet your dad, Elena whispered with a playful smile. He's a hero, isn't he? Mia nodded, quickly, her curls bouncing again. Then, in a soft voice, she said, Daddy always helps people. He fixes everything. Elena's heart ached at the sweetness in the child's tone. She gently squeezed Mia's hand before letting go. Well, I'm glad he fixed my car, and I'm even more glad I met you. Mia's eyes sparkled, though she didn't say anything. More. She stepped back toward her father, holding his hand tightly. Daniel opened the truck door and helped his daughter climb in again. Elena stood by her car, not quite ready to leave, but knowing she had to. She wanted to say more, wanted to hold on to this unexpected encounter, but words failed her. As Daniel prepared to get back into his truck, Elena called out softly, Daniel, thank you again, for everything. He looked at her one last time, his expression calm but kind. Drive safe, Elena. The way he said her name made her chest tighten slightly. She had told him her name only once, yet he spoke it with a gentle weight, as if he had carried it carefully in his memory. Elena got into her car and started driving, glancing at her rearview mirror. She saw Daniel's truck still parked for a moment, his figure framed by the fading sunlight. Mia's small face was visible through the window, watching her leave. The road stretched ahead, but Elena felt different now. The world didn't seem quite as heavy as before. She couldn't explain why, but something about meeting Daniel and his little girl had touched her deeply. As the car rolled smoothly forward, Elena whispered to herself, maybe some meetings are meant to happen. She didn't know when or if she would see them again. But one thing was certain. The kindness of a single father and the innocence of his little girl had already left a mark on her heart. The night after her car broke down, Elena found it difficult to sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the events of the evening replaying in her mind like a quiet movie, the memory of Daniel's calm voice, his kind eyes, and the little girl's shy smile lingered with her. She had met many people in her life, but something about this small family touched her differently. It wasn't just the way Daniel had refused money or how carefully he had worked on the car. It was the way he carried himself, with quiet strength and humility. And it was the way his daughter had looked at her, almost as if she had been waiting to meet her. Elena closed her eyes, telling herself not to read too much into a simple encounter. Yet deep inside, she knew the moment had left a mark. The next afternoon, Elena had to return the borrowed car to her friend. She decided to drive past Daniel's workshop to make sure the car was still running smoothly. A part of her told herself it was only to check the car, but another part admitted she wanted to see him and Mia again. The small auto shop was easy to spot. A modest building stood near the edge of town, its faded sign reading, Daniel's Auto Repairs. The sound of tools and the faint smell of oil filled the air. Elena parked nearby and walked closer, her steps light but uncertain. Inside, Daniel was bent over the hood of another car, working carefully. His shirt sleeves were rolled up and a streak of grease marked his arm. Despite the mess, there was a quiet focus in his movements. He looked up when he heard the door open, and his face softened with recognition. "Elena," he said, almost surprised. "Car trouble again?" She smiled quickly, shaking her head. "No, not this time. I just wanted to make sure the car was fine and to say thank you again." Daniel straightened, wiping his hands on a cloth. "The car should be fine now, but I appreciate you checking." Before Elena could respond, a small voice came from the corner. "Hi." Mia was sitting at a little desk near the wall, crayons spread across the surface. She waved happily when she saw Elena. Her shyness from the day before seemed to have melted away. Elena's heart lifted at the sight. She walked over and crouched beside the little girl. "Hi again. What are you drawing today?" Mia held up a piece of paper. The drawing showed 3 figures holding hands, a tall man, a little girl with curly hair, and a woman with long brown hair. Above them was a sun with a smiling face. Elena blinked, touched by the innocence of the picture. "That's beautiful. Who are they?" she asked softly. Mia leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, as if sharing a secret only for Elena. "That's me, Daddy, and you." The word sent a warm shock through Elena's chest. She glanced at Daniel quickly, but he was busy putting away tools and hadn't noticed. Elena smiled gently, her voice barely above a whisper, too. "Me?" Mia nodded with certainty, her eyes bright. She leaned even closer, whispering again, "You're my mom. Please marry Daddy." Elena's breath caught. She wasn't sure how to respond. Her heart melted at the innocent request, but it also left her speechless. No one had ever said something like that to her, especially not with such purity. At that exact moment, Daniel walked over. He must have caught part of Mia's words because his face turned slightly red. "Mia," he said softly, placing a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "That's not something you should say." Mia looked up at him with wide eyes. "But Daddy, she's perfect. She's nice, and she smiled at me. She's supposed to be my mom." Daniel sighed gently, clearly embarrassed. He knelt beside his daughter. "Sweetheart, you can't just decide things like that. Elena is our friend. That's enough." Mia pouted slightly but didn't argue. She returned to her crayons, though. Her little smile showed she hadn't really changed her mind. Elena sat there, her heart still racing from the child's words. She glanced at Daniel, unsure what to say. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking both apologetic and awkward. "I'm sorry about that," he said quietly. "Mia, she has a big imagination. Sometimes she says things that catch people off guard." Elena shook her head quickly, her voice soft but firm. "Please don't apologize. She's a sweet girl. And children, well, they say what's in their hearts." For a moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Elena saw a flicker of sadness in Daniel's gaze, as though Mia's words had touched a part of him he kept hidden. To ease the moment, Elena changed the subject. "She's very talented. Her drawing is beautiful." Daniel nodded, grateful for the shift. "She loves drawing. It keeps her busy while I work." They both watched Mia for a moment, her little hands moving across the paper, filling it with bright colors. The shop felt warmer somehow, filled not with the smell of oil, but with the gentle glow of something deeper, something that felt almost like family. When it was time to leave, Elena stood near the door, still carrying the weight of Mia's whispered words. Daniel walked her out, his step slow, as if he too was caught in the strange new feeling that hung in the air. "Elena," he said softly, just before she reached her car. "Thank you for being kind to her. She doesn't open up to people easily." Elena looked at him, her heart steady but full. "She's a wonderful child, and she has a wonderful father." Daniel gave a small smile, but his eyes carried a quiet sadness she didn't fully understand. As Elena drove away, her thoughts swirled. Mia's innocent whisper echoed in her mind. "You're my mom. Please marry Daddy." She knew it was only a child's dream, yet somehow it stirred something in her she couldn't ignore. For the first time in years, Elena felt that her path might be leading somewhere unexpected, toward a place where her heart could belong. The days after Elena's visit to Daniel's workshop felt strangely different. She tried to focus on her normal routine, work, errands, evenings at home, but her mind often drifted back to the little auto shop and the people inside it. She remembered Daniel's steady hands, his calm voice, and the way his eyes carried both strength and hidden sadness. She remembered Mia's innocent whisper, words that had echoed in her heart long after she drove away. "You're my mom. Please." "Marry Daddy." Elena told herself it was just a child's dream, nothing more. But deep down, she couldn't deny the warmth she had felt in that small workshop. One Saturday morning, Elena decided to do her grocery shopping earlier than usual. The store near the town square was busier than expected, filled with families, stocking up for the week. Elena pushed her cart slowly, moving through the aisles with her list in hand. As she reached for a box of pasta on the top shelf, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Need a hand?" Elena turned, surprised and delighted. There stood Daniel, holding 2 grocery bags in one arm while balancing a shopping basket in the other. His daughter Mia clung to his side, her small hand gripping his shirt. "Daniel!" Elena exclaimed, smiling widely. "What are the chances?" Daniel looked a little embarrassed, adjusting the bags in his arms. "Seems like fate has a sense of humor," he said lightly. Mia's face brightened the moment she saw Elena. She let go of her father's shirt and ran a few steps toward her. "Elena!" she said happily, as if greeting an old friend. Elena bent down and opened her arms, letting the girl hug her tightly. "Hello, sweet one," she said warmly. "Are you helping your dad today?" Mia nodded eagerly. "I'm helping pick apples. Daddy said I have good taste." Daniel chuckled softly. "She's more opinionated than I am. Every apple has to pass her test." Elena laughed, her heart melting at the simple image of father and daughter shopping together. She noticed the way Daniel carried more than his share, carefully managing everything so Mia's little hands didn't get too full. It was such a small thing, yet it spoke of his quiet devotion as a father. "Here, let me help," Elena offered, taking one of the heavy bags from him before he could protest. "You don't have to," Daniel said quickly, though his grateful smile betrayed his words. "I want to," she replied softly. They moved through the store together, their carts side by side. Mia skipped between them, holding Elena's hand one moment and Daniel's the next. The 3 of them almost looked like a family, drawing a few fond glances from other shoppers. Elena couldn't help but notice how natural it felt. She had always been independent, living her life quietly without depending on others. But walking beside Daniel and Mia, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't realized she was missing. When they reached the fruit section, Mia tugged at Elena's sleeve. "Can you help me pick the best apples?" she asked, her eyes shining. "Of course," Elena said with a smile. She crouched down with Mia, examining each apple carefully, pretending to be serious about the choice. Mia giggled, enjoying the game. Daniel stood a few steps away, watching them. His expression was unreadable for a moment, something between wonder and hesitation. Elena caught his gaze and smiled. He looked away quickly, but not before she saw the softness in his eyes. After paying for their groceries, Daniel struggled again to carry everything. Elena insisted on helping, and together they walked out of the store. The bright morning sun greeted them, warming the air. "My car's parked over there," Daniel said, nodding toward his old truck. "Mine's just across the lot," Elena replied. "Maybe I can help you load things." Daniel hesitated, then gave a small nod. "All right. Thank you." They reached the truck, and while Daniel placed the heavier bags in the back, Elena helped Mia climb into the passenger seat. The little girl settled in happily, hugging her stuffed rabbit that had been waiting on the seat. "You're really good with her," Daniel said suddenly, his voice quiet. Elena looked at him, her hand still on the door. "She makes it easy. She's a wonderful child." Daniel's eyes softened. "She doesn't open up to people very often. But with you, it's different." For a moment, they stood there in silence, the air filled with unspoken thoughts. Elena felt her heart beat faster. She wanted to ask more about his life, about Mia's mother, about the story behind the sadness she sometimes saw in his eyes. But she stopped herself, not wanting to intrude. Instead, she said gently, "Maybe it's because children know who's kind. She just feels safe with me. That's all." Daniel nodded slowly, though his gaze lingered on her longer than before. When all the groceries were loaded, Elena stepped back, brushing her hands together. "Well," she said softly, "I guess this is goodbye again." Mia leaned out the window quickly. "No, don't say goodbye. Say see you soon." Elena laughed, touched by the little girl's words. "All right, see you soon, Mia." The child grinned, satisfied. Daniel closed the truck door and looked at Elena once more. "Thank you," he said, his voice carrying more weight than the simple word suggested. Elena smiled gently. "Any time." As she walked back to her own car, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that life had just tied another invisible thread between them. That evening, as she unpacked her own groceries at home, Elena found herself smiling at small memories from the store. Mia's laughter, Daniel's quiet strength, the way the three of them had moved together as if they belonged. For the first time in a long while, her apartment felt too quiet. She realized she was beginning to look forward to the possibility of crossing paths with them again, and though she didn't say it aloud, she already knew the truth. What she had found in that simple grocery store visit was more than coincidence. It was a gentle nudge from life itself, pulling her closer to something her heart had been waiting for. The days turned into weeks, and little by little, Elena began to see more of Daniel and Mia. At first, it happened by chance, meeting them at the grocery store again or passing by Daniel's workshop when she returned from work. But soon, it became something more. Elena started stopping by on purpose, carrying small treats for Mia, or simply greeting Daniel with a warm smile. Daniel, though cautious at first, never pushed her away. He wasn't a man of many words, but his quiet acceptance was clear. Each time Elena visited, Mia's face lit up with pure joy, and Daniel's eyes softened in a way that made Elena's heart flutter. One Sunday afternoon, Elena invited them over to her small apartment for dinner. She had spent the whole morning preparing simple dishes, pasta, salad, and a cake she had baked with care. When Daniel and Mia arrived, Elena felt her heart beat with nervous excitement. "Wow," Mia whispered as she stepped inside, holding her father's hand. "It smells so good," Elena laughed, bending down to meet her eyes. "I hope you're hungry, little one. I made something special for you." Mia nodded eagerly, her curls bouncing. Daniel looked around the apartment, his gaze thoughtful. "It's cozy here," he said quietly. Elena smiled. It's not much, but it feels like home. Dinner was filled with laughter and warmth. Mia talked more than usual, telling stories about school, her favorite cartoons, and how her stuffed rabbit helped her with homework. Daniel listened with patience, adding a gentle comment here and there. Elena found herself watching him, as much as she listened to Mia. She noticed the way his eyes softened when he looked at his daughter, the way his hand rested protectively on her shoulder, the way his smile, though rare, lit up the room. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Mia sat on the carpet, busy with crayons and drawing papers Elena had set out for her. Daniel and Elena sat on the couch, cups of tea warming their hands. "Thank you for this," Daniel said softly. "We don't often get invited out. Mia usually spends her evenings with me in the workshop." "I'm glad you came," Elena replied. "She brings so much joy, and well, you deserve a break too." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. There was gratitude in his eyes, but also something else, something he didn't say. Elena felt the silence between them grow gentle, filled with an understanding that didn't need words. As weeks passed, their bond deepened. Elena began helping Mia with her school projects. She would stop by the workshop with supplies, and the three of them would sit together at the small wooden table. Mia loved those moments, proudly showing Elena her drawings and asking for advice. One evening, Mia presented a picture she had been working on. It showed 3 stick figures standing under a bright sun, one tall man, one small girl, and one woman with long hair. Above them, she had written in shaky letters, "My family." Daniel looked at the drawings silently, his throat tightening. Elena felt her eyes grow warm. She hugged Mia gently, whispering, "It's beautiful." Daniel wanted to speak, to explain, to stop Mia from dreaming too much, but the words stuck in his throat. He only nodded, his heart torn between fear and hope. Another evening, Elena offered to cook at Daniel's home. His house was modest, a little worn but filled with love. Mia ran around happily, showing Elena every corner, her small bedroom with drawings taped to the walls, the kitchen where she helped Daddy wash dishes, the backyard where she liked to chase butterflies. Elena helped Daniel prepare dinner while Mia sat at the table, humming to herself. As they cooked side by side, their shoulders brushed, and for a moment, Elena felt a spark of warmth run through her. Daniel glanced at her, their eyes meeting for only a second, but it was enough to make the air between them feel different, softer, closer. "You're a good cook," Daniel said, tasting the sauce. Elena laughed lightly. "I try, but I think tonight it tastes better because I'm cooking with you." Daniel didn't reply, but his quiet smile said enough. Mia's attachment to Elena grew stronger with each passing day. She would often ask, "When is Elena coming again?" Or, "Can she stay longer?" Daniel noticed it, and though he worried about the possibility of disappointment, he couldn't deny that Elena had become a bright presence in their lives. One evening, as he tucked Mia into bed, she whispered, "Daddy, can Elena be here every day? It feels like she belongs here." Daniel kissed her forehead gently. "We'll see, sweetheart. We'll see." But even as he said it, he knew Mia's words reflected his own secret thoughts. For Elena, her quiet apartment no longer felt lonely. Her evenings with Daniel and Mia filled her with joy she hadn't realized she was missing. She caught herself daydreaming at work, smiling at small memories, Mia's laughter, Daniel's rare but genuine smiles, the way the three of them fit together so naturally. Yet, she also felt a gentle fear. What if she was reading too much into this? What if Daniel didn't feel the same? She didn't want to risk hurting him or Mia by stepping too close too quickly. Still, her heart couldn't help but lean toward them like a flower drawn to sunlight. One late evening, after another, shared dinner, Daniel walked Elena to her car. The night air was cool, the stars faint above. They stood together quietly, neither wanting the moment to end. "Thank you," Daniel said softly, "for being here, for being part of our lives." Elena looked at him, her heart full. "Thank you for letting me in." Their eyes lingered on each other, filled with unspoken feelings. Daniel wanted to say more, but fear held him back. Elena wanted to reach for his hand, but she stopped herself. Instead, they stood there in the quiet night, hearts speaking in silence. As Elena drove away, she realized that her life was slowly intertwining with theirs, thread by thread. She didn't know where it would lead, but she knew one thing for certain: her heart was no longer her own. It belonged to both a quiet father and his little girl, who had already drawn her into their world. The bond between Elena, Daniel, and Mia was growing stronger with every passing week. It felt almost natural, like they had always been part of each other's lives. Yet, just as everything seemed to fall into place, life decided to test their hearts. It began on a rainy Monday morning. Daniel was busy fixing a customer's car in the workshop when his phone rang. He almost didn't answer. It was rare for him to get calls during work hours. But when he saw the number, his heart tightened. It was Mia's school. "Mr. Carter." The teacher's voice sounded calm but serious. "Mia isn't feeling well. She has a fever, and we think you should come pick her up." Daniel dropped his tools at once. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. When he arrived at the school, he found Mia sitting in the office, pale and tired. She leaned into his arms the moment she saw him. "Daddy, my head hurts." His heart ached. "I've got you, sweetheart. Let's go home." That evening, Elena showed up at Daniel's door with a bag full of soup, medicine, and a gentle smile. "I heard Mia wasn't feeling well." "I couldn't just sit at home," she explained. Daniel's tired eyes softened. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said simply. Mia, though weak, managed a small smile when she saw Elena. "You came," she whispered. Elena sat beside her bed, brushing her hair back gently. "Of course I did. You're my brave little friend." For the next 2 days, Elena came over after work, helping Daniel care for Mia. She stayed by the little girl's side, reading stories, singing softly, and holding her hand until she fell asleep. Daniel watched quietly from the doorway more than once, his chest heavy with emotions he couldn't put into words. By the 3rd day, Mia's fever broke, and her playful smile returned. But just as relief filled Daniel's heart, an unexpected shadow appeared. That Friday, Daniel's sister Clara came to visit. She hadn't seen him in months, and was surprised to find Elena there, laughing with Mia in the kitchen. After Elena left, Clara pulled Daniel aside. "Who is she?" "She's a friend," Daniel replied carefully. Clara frowned. "A friend who cooks in your kitchen and spends every evening here? Daniel, you know I only want the best for you and Mia. Are you sure about this? You can't let someone walk in and out of Mia's life. She's already lost enough." Her words stung because they echoed Daniel's own fears. "I know," he said quietly. "I think about that every day." That night, after Mia had gone to bed, Daniel sat alone in the living room. His thoughts battled inside him. He had grown to care for Elena deeply, but Clara was right. He couldn't risk breaking Mia's heart. When Elena called to check on Mia, Daniel hesitated before answering. "She's much better now. Thank you for everything you did." His voice was kind but distant. Elena noticed the change immediately. "Daniel, is something wrong?" He stayed silent for a moment, then said softly, "I just don't want Mia to get too attached. I don't want her to be hurt if things don't work out." Elena's heart sank. She understood his fear, but it hurt all the same. I would never hurt her, she whispered. I know, Daniel said, but life, it isn't always fair. The next few days were quiet. Daniel didn't push Elena away completely, but he kept a small distance. He didn't invite her over, and their conversations grew shorter. Elena tried to be patient, reminding herself that his heart carried old wounds. Still, she couldn't help but feel the ache of being on the outside once again. Mia, however, noticed the change right away. One evening, as Daniel tucked her into bed, she asked, "Daddy, why doesn't Elena come anymore? Did she stop liking us?" Daniel's chest tightened. No, sweetheart. She still cares about us. Then why? He kissed her forehead. Because sometimes grown-ups get scared. But it doesn't mean they stop caring. Mia thought about his words for a moment, then whispered, "She feels like my mom. I don't want her to go away." Those words pierced Daniel's heart. He sat beside her for a long time, unable to shake the truth in her little voice. The turning point came the following weekend. The community held a small fair at the local park. Daniel almost didn't go, but Mia begged him, and he couldn't say no. As they walked through the fairgrounds, laughing at the rides and enjoying cotton candy, Daniel saw Elena from a distance. She was standing near a stall, helping a group of children with a painting activity. Her smile was bright, her hands gentle as she guided them. For a moment, Daniel simply stood still, watching. Something inside him shifted, an unspoken realization that he couldn't imagine a future without her. Mia spotted Elena too and ran toward her with open arms. "Elena!" Elena bent down, hugging her tightly. "Mia, look at you, all happy again." Daniel walked over slowly, his heart pounding. Elena looked up, her eyes meeting his. For a moment, neither spoke, but everything they had been holding back filled the silence between them. Later, after Mia had gone off to play a game with some friends, Daniel and Elena stood together near the quiet edge of the park. The air smelled of popcorn and laughter floated around them, but their world felt still. "I'm sorry," Daniel said at last. "I've been pulling away. I was scared, not of you, but of what it means for Mia, for me. I thought maybe keeping my distance would protect us, but all it did was hurt us more." Elena's eyes softened. "Daniel, I understand your fear, but I'm not here to leave. I care for Mia as if she were my own. And Her voice trembled slightly. "I care for you, too." Daniel looked at her, his eyes full of honesty. "I know. And I care for you more than I wanted to admit." For the first time in years, he allowed hope to rise above fear. As the fair lights glowed around them, Mia returned, holding their hands together. She looked up at both of them and grinned. "See, we're all together now." Daniel and Elena shared a smile, one filled with warmth and quiet promises. The test of the heart had not broken them. It had made them stronger. The fair ended, but something new had begun in their hearts. Daniel no longer tried to hide his feelings, and Elena no longer feared being pushed away. Still, the journey ahead was not simple. Both of them knew it would take patience, honesty, and courage to build the life they wanted together. The following week, Daniel invited Elena to dinner at his house. It wasn't anything fancy, just pasta, garlic bread, and salad, but it felt special. Mia was excited, running around the kitchen, setting the table with her little hands. "Daddy, I put the forks on the right side," she announced proudly. Daniel chuckled. "Good job, sweetheart." When Elena arrived, Mia greeted her with a big hug. "You're just in time. Daddy made pasta and I helped." Elena laughed softly. "Then I already know it's going to be delicious." The evening was warm, filled with laughter, stories, and quiet glances that carried unspoken feelings. For the first time in a long time, Daniel's house felt complete. After dinner, Mia insisted on showing Elena her drawings. She pulled out a notebook filled with crayon pictures, some of her and her dad, some of cars and flowers, but one drawing stood out. It showed 3 people holding hands, a man, a woman, and a little girl. Above them was a big red heart. Elena's eyes softened. "This is beautiful, Mia. Who are these people?" Mia looked at her with shining eyes. "That's you, Daddy, and me. We're a family." Elena's throat tightened with emotion. She brushed Mia's hair back gently. "That's the most wonderful family I've ever seen." Daniel, watching from the doorway, felt his heart swell. His daughter's innocent words carried more truth than he could deny. In the days that followed, Daniel and Elena spent more time together, slowly weaving their lives into one. They took Mia to the park, shared lunches at the cafe, and even worked side by side in the garage when Elena stopped by after school. But one evening, as Daniel was closing the shop, Elena stayed behind to help him lock up. The quiet moment gave them space for words that had been waiting. "Daniel," Elena began softly, "I want you to know I don't see this as something light or temporary. I'm not just here for a little while. I'm here because I want a future with you and with Mia." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. Daniel looked at her, deeply moved. "I believe you, and I want the same. But I need you to know. I've been afraid for so long. Losing Emma broke me. I didn't think I'd ever open my heart again. But you—" He paused, his voice thick with feeling. "You've given me hope again. For me, for Mia, for us." Elena reached for his hand, holding it gently. "Then let's build this future together. Slowly, carefully, but together." He nodded, a quiet promise shining in his eyes. As weeks turned into months, their bond grew stronger. The town noticed too. Customers at the cafe teased Elena playfully, saying they could see her smile had grown brighter. Neighbors at the garage told Daniel he looked happier, lighter, like a man who had finally let go of the weight he carried. Mia, of course, was the happiest of all. She skipped to school in the mornings, eager to tell her friends about her dad and Elena. To her, it already felt like a family. One crisp autumn afternoon, Daniel decided to do something he hadn't done in years. He took Mia and Elena to the lake where he used to go with Emma. For a long time, he had avoided the place, afraid of the memories. But now, standing there with Elena's hand in his and Mia's laughter in the air, he realized the lake no longer held only sorrow. It held hope, too. As the sun painted the water in gold, Daniel spoke softly. "This place used to make me sad, but today, it feels different. Because I'm not alone anymore." Elena squeezed his hand. "You'll never be alone again." Mia picked up a small stone and tossed it into the water. "We should make a wish," she said brightly. They each threw a stone, watching the ripples spread. Daniel didn't speak his wish out loud, but in his heart, he wished for this moment to last forever. The next few weeks were filled with simple joys, family dinners, walks through town, cozy evenings by the fire. Slowly, Daniel began to let go of his fears. He realized that love didn't erase the past, but it gave meaning to the present and hope for the future. One evening, while Mia was asleep, Daniel and Elena sat together on the porch. The night sky was clear, stars scattered like diamonds. Daniel turned to her, his heart steady and sure. "Elena," he said softly, "I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know I don't want to face it without you. You've brought light back into our lives. And Mia, she already loves you as if you were her mother. The truth is, I love you too, with all my heart." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but her smile was radiant. "I love you, Daniel, and I love Mia, with all my heart." They leaned closer, their foreheads touching. two souls finally finding home in each other. From that night on, they no longer doubted the path they were on. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, busy days, and moments of worry, but they faced it all together. And Mia, the little girl who once whispered a wish in her father's ear, finally saw it come true. She had her daddy, she had Elena, and together they were a family. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Daniel reading, Elena sipping tea, and Mia drawing at the table, Mia suddenly lifted her paper. "Look," she said proudly. It was another drawing, brighter and fuller than before. It showed the three of them standing in front of their home, holding hands with a big sun shining above them. "This is us," Mia declared. "My family. Forever." Daniel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts full. No words were needed. They had found their new beginning, not in grand gestures or perfect plans, but in the quiet, steady love that bound them together.